Electrocast. Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Whether you're a diehard sports fan, a hopeless romantic, or a comedy aficionado, the Xfinity 10G network was made for streaming it all. Worry less about buffering when streaming your favorite shows, movies, or live sports, and enjoy a better way to watch. Xfinity gives you a reliable connection for streaming, plus all the entertainment you love all in one place. Fear not, because now you can finally sit back, relax, and stream your favorite entertainment and sports like never before with the Xfinity 10G network.
Welcome in to Check My Oil, brought to you by Missing the Point. We're talking about another UFC pay-per-view. Cue the awesome Spike TV music. No, we're not in that era anymore. We're an ESPN sport now. We're polished. We're ready to go. It's going to be a good one. I feel like we've been talking about guys. I've got the usual cast of Chuckle Fucks here. I've got Ben Peak, former professional mixed martial artist. I've got Matt Wilcox, current professional degenerate. And myself, Dave Clarke, professional leader of the group. So it's going to be good. We got Burns Muhammad as the co-main event. We got Sterling Cejudo as the main event for the King of Cringe. And we're going to talk about that later. We're going to go through all the early prelims. We're spoiled again. There's a lot of good fights on this card, gents. I would say of all the cards we've talked about, Matt, if you could weigh in on this as a whole. Of all the cards we talked about, I think this has the most cumulative underdog value bet of all the cards. I think I think Vegas has some weird lines on this one, as they always do with combat sports, but not boxing. They fucking know who's going to win every boxing match. It's like, don't bet on the underdog in a boxing match in 2023. You didn't bet Garcia, did you? In that Davis Garcia match? You did. Okay,
Are you
good.
kidding me?
You love chasing an underdog. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of value in these underdogs. It's going to be fun to talk about. We did prep and talk about Santos versus Munoz, but that fight's off. That's canceled. Nobody's crying about that. Most people will still be at the concession stands by the time they fight. But Holmes Ribeiro, right off the bat, I think there's value for Holmes. Am I fucking crazy?
No, you're not crazy. I love Holmes in this. A little bit younger. He's a little bit hungrier. The concerning thing was his last fight against Park, where he got submitted, but he's going against Claudio, who's just a bare bones boxer, just gonna come in there swinging at him.
That's what I was gonna say. There isn't a risk of that happening to him again. I know his UFC career has gone off to a little bit of a skid, but he was 7-1 coming into the UFC, right. So there's got to be some talent there. You know,
and one of his losses is to Jamie Pickett, so it's like, give him credit for that.
Fair,
but no, I do like him over Romero here.
Yeah, and I also think Ribeiro, it's Ribeiro, for the record, not Romero, you fucking racist.
Ribeiro. Claudio Ribeiro.
Oh, shit, I'm the racist. Oh, no. Ben, styles make fights. If you're trying to bounce back from a bad submission loss, and you're coming up against a guy who's going to fight your style of fight, your confidence is high, right? Even though you're coming off a loss, so is the other guy. Everybody's hungry. Is that, like, as a professional, would you want, no, I want my chance again against another jiu-jitsu guy. I went and filled in this hole in my game. Or are you like, I need to get back on track. I got to fight a guy that's more my style.
Now you got to get your confidence back, man, especially having such a back and forth entrance into the big show. 7-1 as an MMA career, great. But once you make it into the UFC, that's when people really start paying attention to your wins and losses. Nobody knows who these guys are that he's fighting beforehand.
Fair.
I assume. I haven't looked into his record. That being said, he seems like the more well-rounded fighter. Ribeiro is a tough guy, very, very heavy striker. But I think this is Holmes' opportunity to kind of pull it out of the fire here and get things back on track.
I mean, let's hope so for his sake. Let me ask you a meta question, because I think it's always fun to ask you a meta fighting question. And Matt, I would actually be interested in hearing your thoughts on this too. When you get to the UFC, right? Obviously, it's the pinnacle promotion. Everybody in this sport understands that it's the pinnacle promotion, but you've moved up before. You've moved up in competition before. You've fought in higher and higher promotions, I would assume, most of the time on your way up. Is there a quality, an intangible quality in a fighting athlete that makes them better when the lights turn on? Or is that just, they can go somewhere else in their head? Like the big show and getting to this place sometimes makes guys better, and sometimes completely shuts them down. So can you put your finger on what gene that is, on what quality that is? Can you recognize it in guys when they're coming up or in training or something? Or is it just an intangible you can't figure out?
Well, I think to your point, there is absolutely a psychological aspect that some people have and some people don't.
Can you teach it to yourself? Can you beat your brain?
So I think we've seen, it's anecdotal at best. I think we've heard from people like Anderson Silva who have struggled Anderson Silva had some of the worst nerves of any fighter I've ever heard of. Right. Same with Tito Ortiz. He used to throw up all the time, but went to a sports psychologist and he was able to get himself on track. That being said, I think it's very hard to pinpoint coming up because you have so many guys who can get on a streak and just feel like they are unbeatable. But there's a production quality to the UFC, and when I've been there live, not fighting in the UFC, but when I've been there live at the show, man, it's unlike any other promotion I've been to, and that this is it. The UFC still holds that monopoly on the best mixed martial artists in the world.
And that can get in your head.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Matt, I mean, you're a big game player, you're a trial lawyer, you always tell me you get better when the spotlight's on. What is that? Like, what is that thing that you can tap into? And can you recognize it in other people?
Oh, you can definitely recognize it in other people. Some people shrink. Some people can't handle the nerves. Some people are so afraid of failure that they just can't rise to the occasion. And some people just thrive in that chaos and those moments of, you feel the butterflies, you're scared, your voice is shaking, but you know what you have to do and you go and do it well. And I think when the UFC, we see a lot of people in these early prelim fights that can't rise to the occasion. They see the bright lights, it gets to them and it kills them. And, cream floats to the top.
Yeah. Ben, what were your nerves like before fights? Were you nervous? Were you? You once told me that once the cage door closes, it always went away. Was that always true?
During the walkout, it went away. So honestly, early on, I had terrible nerves. I remember pulling up to some promotions. I remember the drive down for my first ever actual competition in Akron, Ohio. That drive it was a long drive anyway. We left at 5 a.m. That drive felt, oh my God. I was terrified going down there and I didn't sleep the whole night before. First ever MMA fight, I was terrified for weeks. I really got into meditation because of how nervous I was in realizing that I had to really figure out a way to calm myself down. That being said, even in that situation, there was so much kickboxing aside, the settings were so different. But my first ever MMA fight, you guys remember being there at the strip club. Man, that setting was...
We have to talk about the strip club fight once per episode.
Yeah. There was...
But you beat the shit out of that guy.
Well, yeah, I think it was fairly back and forth. I did end up winning, but when I remember being very nervous at weigh-ins too, because the guy, he was much older than me, not friendly. And I was like, okay, fine. We're just going to make this a street fight. I've been here before. And then when my name got called, because he was talking shit leading up to the whole thing.
I remember, yes.
Yeah. Oh man, I was just,
but then he wanted to be your best friend by the start of the third round.
Yeah, man. That was something because he honestly helped me with my nerves because he got me so angry. I was nervous and I was like, oh man, this is a competition, whatever. But he made me feel no, I've been here before. This is a street fight. We're just going to get it. And, when my name got called, I remember walking up and staring into the cage at him as I was walking up to it, and I could see his eyes were wide, and I was like, "Oh man, you're not the person that you said you were. Let's do it."
I see into your soul. If anybody wants to try and relate to it, the only thing I can really imagine to try to get yourself into a place where you can understand what you're talking about is like the fight after school. You know, if in first period you find out you got to fight right after school, you're thinking about that shit all day. Times that by a fucking billion when everyone, not your whole school's going to be watching, everyone's going to be watching. You're going to be locked in a cage with a man that's trying to kill you. And you know, there's a few questions I want to ask later when we get to some other fights that I'm interested in. But on that note, and I think both these first two early prelims have this theme, Zhumagulov, a guy I was pretty hot on when he came into the UFC. He's 1-5, I think, on a skid. I think he's a good fighter, and his fighting style works usually in this sport, in how it's kind of constituted and presented in the UFC. He's one of those guys I keep wanting to bet on him every time I see him, and I keep fucking losing money. If you're going on, Matt, I'll start with you on this one. From a gambling perspective, you're going to ride the hot hand on the favorite here because Estevam is riding a win streak. Zhumagulov, in my head, should be the better fighter, but he's riding a fucking losing streak. And at the same time, back against the wall, like he's probably going to get cut if he loses this fight. I would imagine. I don't think you can lose 6 fights and win 1 in a Dana White regime and have any sort of hope of staying in the promotion. Maybe you go like get tune up somewhere else, but I still want to bet the underdog on this, but maybe am I chasing shadows?
No, I'm totally with you. What it boils down to for me is that the challenger has had technically one UFC fight. It's a contender series fight. And I just, when I'm this close on the fence, I don't bet against people from Kazakhstan because it's a hard life, man. He's lived a hard life. You're right. He's been on a skid. He lost a couple bad decisions, but I've been riding with him too, and I'm going to keep riding with him on this one.
I'll say this on the Styles Make Fights front. He rarely gets finished, and this other dude finishes people, and he is dominant. But a big theme of the last few weeks, and especially sucks when you bet on the guy that isn't getting the guy out of there, and something I've been talking about for weeks and weeks, the killer instinct, the ability to get guys out of there when you hurt them is so few and far between, I think, these days in the UFC. And I think I've developed my theory as to why. I think everybody's getting better across the board. I think a rising tide lifts all boats. I think everybody's getting better, and I think it's harder to put guys away. I think that in the days of Mirko Krokop fucking head kicking dudes into the netherworld, I think there were guys leaning into his fucking head kicks. I think there's more tape. I think there's more defensive coaching, elite defensive coaching out there. I think that defense is extremely difficult in mixed martial arts because of the size of the gloves. And the different ways that people have and abilities to attack you and destroy you. But at the same time, it's fucking annoying me. Like, get guys out of there, I'll point to one specific thing that happens all the time. Tell me if you guys notice this. It's I rocked him. He's gone up against the cage. I fucking rocked him. So let me shoot. Let me shoot for a takedown right now. It's like, what are you doing? Like, tee off, buddy, and it's like, I get it. You're going into your comfort zone. It's like, this is my, it's an instinct and it is a fight. But Ben, in the times where you've had the opportunity to put guys away, where you've seen them get hurt, is it, like, I know you as a person, like deep down at your absolute core, you're a big old softy.
Just
but
a big
you gotta have
bear.
you gotta have a killer instinct in there, right? So it like, okay, you hit somebody, you've rocked them. How do you get into a place where you're cold, you're calm, you're putting them away? You don't get overexcited. You don't get sort of lulled into a false sense of security because you're like, I got him, he's done. Like, you've seen all ends of the spectrum in the sport. Like, what's the right thing to do on paper?
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Man, think it really comes down to how well conditioned you are to be putting guys away in training. Because
you're not supposed to. I thought you weren't supposed to hurt your opponents, so you can't practice it, right?
Well, yeah, but you. So that's a fair point. However, there's a difference in pad men. There's a difference in sparring partners, etc. Where, and this is maybe why you shouldn't be doing hard sparring more than a couple times a week, because you do need to be really putting it on and finding ways to find openings.
Risk of
and
injury,
attack.
too, I would imagine.
And you've got to be able to jump on guys when you do that. Yeah, injury is another thing, but that's a whole other ball game. But as far as conditioning for a fight, you've got to be visualizing every time you hit pads, when you do pad work on the ground, when you're grappling. The entire point is to get to a position where you can hurt the person. And we've kind of gotten to this. And this is actually something that I posted on Instagram not too long ago, and I got a bunch of backlash for us arguing with a bunch of people, like when they talk about flow rolling in jiu-jitsu. And I said, flow rolling's for cowards. That's not what I do when I do jiu-jitsu. And whenever I go to grapple with any of these guys at the dojo or wherever, I'm going there to try to submit you. Right. It is what it is. I'll let go. I'm not going to break your arm. But I'm not trying to gain position and hold you there and let you work and this and that. I'm there to work. I want to be beating.
Well, that, I think, but I mean, I would imagine, and obviously, I don't have nearly the level of martial arts experience that you do, but I would imagine then you just got to put guys with you that are on your level. I mean, that's it. Like, then everybody can get better.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Like iron sharpens iron. Cliche as it is, like you need to be dealing with guys who are dangerous at all times, because you have to be constantly pushing for the finish. And the conditioning aspect comes back in when guys are punching, and then they shooting for takedowns to go for their comfort zone. Man, that's now just turn up the barrage even one more on the dial, and you could probably get a stoppage even if you haven't knocked them out. But you should be this. This is kind of a thing that so many people go back and forth on the sport about, and I know this problem has happened in boxing. The point is to inflict the most damage. You are scored that way by the judges. They are looking for you to inflict the most damage on the other person. And that is the way that you should be training, to inflict the most damage, to move forward and try to hurt somebody with every punch that you throw, or every couple strikes. You're setting up a way to hurt somebody. The same way that you grapple, you should be advancing position to try to hurt this person. That is what it is. You do want to stop at the last second, hopefully not. But this is the game. They've signed the contract. You've signed the contract. I get it, but you've got to put it on them, man.
No friends
you're
in
both,
this game.
You're both
friends
in
in
for
this
the same
game.
time. Yeah.
Matt, do you think you lose your killer instinct as you get older? You think there's guys in their early 20s that are better off, more likely to poke guys away? Because I feel like I've gotten softer as I've gotten older. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
No, I just feel like I've never had it in me to hit somebody that's hurt. That's just not. I'm not an MMA fighter. I'll never be an MMA fighter because I'd never want to hurt somebody that bad or hit them when they're hurt. You know what I mean? Some people just don't have it in them. This is a combat sport. These people have agreed to this. And I think, as much as he's annoying, Jorge Masvidal said it perfectly after he knocked out Askren, because he came and hit him 3 more times afterwards. And they asked him, why
super necessary.
Why are you doing it? He goes, it is super necessary. That's my job. I'm in there to win this fight. And as stupid as it is that the sport's scored on the boxing 10-point scale, Ben's right. The first thing that gets scored is damage.
Right.
Hurt him.
I mean, that was a fucking stupid question that they asked Jorge Masvidal, to be honest. If you're an experienced MMA journalist, you shouldn't be asking the question, was it necessary to hit him more times? The risk of the referee fucking up, him not being fully out, the risk to your career if you don't put him away is crazy. You can't have that. So
people, what I think it is? I think people remember Muhammad Ali watching Foreman fall to the ground and not sending him that last shot, watching him come down. This is not boxing. This is not a dance. We're not just throwing punches and scoring points. It's hurt the other person, show blood, show damage. Yeah. That's the game.
And honestly, a great example was last weekend on the fact that MMA in its current rule set isn't even the most brutal representation of a combat sport.
Right.
That fucking bare knuckle stuff. I've watched a few of them. I watched Chad Mendes and Eddie Alvarez fight. It was entertaining. I watched fucking Mike Perry and Luke Rockhold. It's too gross for me, honestly. It's too much, man. There's a reason that gloves exist. A, to protect your hands. You're not going to have any longevity in that fucking sport by bare knuckle fighting. Secondly, Luke Rockhold's, I mean, in that situation, he looks like a bitch, but it's like, he's not a bitch. He's a fucking cage fighter. He's a professional cage fighter. He's been fighting in combat sports his entire life. He's not a pussy. He's not. But he got hit in the teeth. He cracked his teeth. He was like, I'm fucking done, dude. Like, that's gotta suck pretty bad.
I agree with you completely. I love the UFC, and I have a lot of friends that don't watch any sort of fighting because they don't appreciate violent sports that don't have a goal other than violence. But man, bare knuckle boxing is it's one bridge too far for me. That Alvarez Mendes fight was unbelievable. It was so much fun to watch, but I just it's just one step too far.
I mean, I'd be really interested in data on bare knuckle at some point in the future. I'm sure they don't have it now, but because the soft tissue damage is in your face. Obviously, it's so grotesque. Like, it's so much easier to cut somebody. Like, it's essentially you're hitting somebody with 8 tiny elbows all the time because it's like bone.
How do you
onto
mainstream
skin.
that though? It's so gross.
But Ben, I agree with Ben. Like, what is the subconcussive result of that?
Well, right, because isn't it true that like boxing is worse for that than MMA, because like you get hit with like you don't go out, like you don't get to the point of that defense. It's your body defending you when it goes unconscious. It's a thing going like, we're done here. Like, you got to go to sleep so we can protect your brain. You get hit so many more times in the fucking head in boxing by guys who are only trained to specialize in that one thing of punching you in the fucking head. And yeah, I would imagine, like you said, the subconcussive stuff. Look at all the CT research in football. I would probably rather have my kid learn how to fight and compete in mixed martial arts now than play football. American football.
Man, because how many hours is a football game of set back up, hit the other person with your head, set back up, hit the other person with your head.
It's not good. It's not fucking good. And at least those MMA gloves are sort of perfect, where it's like you said, the soft tissue damage is reduced from a bare knuckle, but at least if you hit a guy in the right spot, he goes out, and you're not hitting him again and again and again and again. Yeah, unless the referee's slow. All right, that was a good talk. Haz Aliskerov. I like Phil Haz. I'm taking another little bit of underdog points here. This is what I was talking about. At least on the prelims, there's a lot of underdog value. I think it's another example with this Aliskerov guy where he was unbeaten and he was doing really good, and bang, like he gets knocked out. Then he comes back and he does like he kind of builds and builds and builds again. He's a scary guy. I wouldn't want to fight him, but again, I like Phil Haz. I mean, he's dropping down the cards as we sort of watch it. But I like his style. And I think he's fought better opponents if you look at his resume. So, Matt, what do you think? Where's your money going?
Me and you are split on this one. I'm going to go with Aliskerov. I'm just going to give this one to the Russian. Every time Phil Haz faces somebody that's
Matt bets Russians. That's he's like,
I bet Russians.
He learned that lesson the hard way.
These Dagestani guys have cost me enough money. All right, I'm going with Aliskerov. Haz, his knockout versus Chris Curtis, who's obviously an elite fighter, was
he's fought
really
he's fought Delitse, like he's fought good guys.
No, he has fought good guys. I just, I'm going to give this one to the Russian. It just smells like a Russian kind of fight here.
Ben, who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Aliskerov on this one as well. Phil Haz, super exciting guy, incredibly athletic.
Goes balls to the wall when he starts out. I mean, it's fun.
His only recent win though is against Darren Wynn, who
sucks also.
Bad.
I think maybe I'm stuck in that. I'm stuck in that first rise when he came into the UFC and he won like 3 or 4 straight in middleweight. And I was like, oh, this guy's good. He's a contender. And then all of a sudden he just sort of faded, which is, I guess, a thing that happens. I mean, it's not that thing we've been talking about, which is you're intimidated by the lights of the UFC. It's more like you plateau, I guess.
Right.
Or you're given better fighters and something.
I think you hit your limit. I think you literally, some guys just have a limit of where the talent overshadows them.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how old is Phil.
He's got to be 30.
30?
He's 34. He's 34.
Wow.
I mean, Father Time comes and beats your ass he'll show up at your door at different times for different guys, but he always does and he always wins. Like some people do have a limit. Absolutely. And they will just, burn out. They don't have it anymore. Their body isn't producing testosterone the same way. They're not able to physiologically keep up with the competition. And you can get in your head after a few losses, man, and think that you just don't have it anymore. You won't come back.
Yeah. You know what? I don't think it's actually any more complicated than the fact that I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go with you guys because I just realized that Liskarov has a beard and no mustache. So
right,
there's just no way to beat a guy with a beard and no mustache from a certain part of the world. It's the way to do it. I mean, I think Alexander Volkanovski did, but they didn't give him the dub. So, okay, yeah, I think you're right. I like Phil Hawes. I think there was a sentimental part of me that enjoyed his time coming into the UFC. But now that I've listened to two professionals talk about it, I think you're right. I've changed my mind. I'm not going to advise anybody to bet on Phil Hawes. He's almost certainly going to lose. Okay, Braxton Smith, Parker Porter. Parker Porter does not sound like the name of somebody who is a professional fighter. He sounds like the guy who is teaching you how to ski and fucks your wife when you go back to the lodge. I can't believe a guy named Parker is going out there to have a professional fist fight. He's got almost a 500 record. He's 13-8. He doesn't look like his name, which I hate. I prefer when people look like their names. It makes me more comfortable, and I'm less likely to fly into a confused rage. But Braxton Smith's 5-1, and he's 33. Parker Porter's 30-8. And Braxton Smith looks like a guy that if I saw him at a bar, I probably wouldn't. If I saw both these guys at a bar, I probably would have to pick Parker Porter to fight. If I learned his name was Parker again. But you can't bet on these heavyweight fights of guys that are fucking bums, guys. I can't stress this enough. Do not put your money on heavyweight fighters that are not elite in any way. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. This is roulette, okay? I do think Braxton Smith is going to win, but this is fucking roulette, okay? Parker Porter's the favorite, so there might be some value in his experience, but is anything I'm saying wrong, Matt, or am I crazy? Am I set in my ways?
You're absolutely right. It's roulette, and I'm going with Parker Porter because he just looks scary.
What?
He just looks scary. I just wouldn't want to, if I bumped into somebody at a bar and knocked their beer over and he turned around, I'd be like, oh,
you think Parker Porter looks more scary?
I think he looks more scary. He's got the stupid tattoos.
He looks like an old-timey circus strongman. What do you mean?
Exactly. That's terrifying. What are you talking about?
Matt thinks it's Nightmare Alley. All right. I mean, fair enough, but it's going to be one of those fights that's great because he's also from Hartford, Connecticut, and we know New England fighter.
Damn it.
But it is one of those fights where like you're not quite paying attention. You've had a couple of beers, the early prelims have started, and then you go what I always do is I go like, Leah, heavyweights. It's going to be over fast. Neither of these guys are good. Somebody's going to get knocked out because that's the truth. At the top of the heavyweight division, if DC's fighting Stipe or John Jones is fighting Cyril Gane, I mean, that actually did end in like very quick time. But yeah, there's defense, there's this, there's that, I know this guy's thing, I've seen his tape. But at this level, somebody's getting clipped. That's why you put these like feeder fights on there. Ben, you ever felt
this though? Now that I know that he's fighting out of Connecticut, I'm definitely betting on Parker Porter. I'm going to be in Connecticut watching this fight with your brother.
Yeah, that's cool. That's fun. Great. I'm fine. Okay, fine. Ben, you've probably rolled and sparred with heavyweights. What's the power differential? I mean, you for the listeners at home, I remember you starting out at like 155 a round was your weight class, which was like really light for you. I feel like I remember
for MMA, I was fighting at 155.
Yeah. And then towards the later part of your career, I remember there was 165. There was heavier and heavier weights. You at your current weight, if you were getting off the couch right now, would you be fighting a heavyweight? 205
yes,
plus?
Well, if I didn't cut any weight, yes.
Would you cut to light heavyweight right now? Would that be your best?
I'd probably be light heavyweight because I'm about 215 right now. So that'd be a 10
Yeah, you'd want to cut down because a lot of those fuckers are like 260.
But honestly, just getting in shape, I probably would drop weight. But to answer your question about, man, heavyweights are just dangerous people.
Yeah.
And they don't even mean to be.
Right.
Like I don't like. I would go with Braxton Smith on this one for that purpose, because as far as heavyweights go, he has the thing that ends most heavyweight fights, and he's so good at it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be hard to deny that. But man, I remember I was training with this guy, Sean Gannon, RIP. I'm not sure if you guys remember Sean Gannon, but man, that guy is a legend in Boston mixed martial arts. He fought in the UFC a couple of times, the first and only man to beat Kimbo. In a street fight.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
With him? That's cool.
Yeah, he used to train out of White Crow.
Gannon sounds like the name of somebody who should be a professional heavyweight fighter. This is what I'm talking about looking like your fucking name. Okay, get with it, guys.
Yeah, and you know, it's so funny. All these heavyweights I've ever been around, they all have that same huge pit bull head.
Yeah.
Gabriel Gonzaga, I went and I held pads for Gabe Gonzaga in Ludlow in 2014. And I'd been training for a long time at that point, obviously. Kicked the tie pad into my face, despite me putting on my weight. And that had never happened before. And I was
Aren't
shocked.
You really good at holding pads? I thought you were really good at holding pads. What happened?
I just couldn't believe that happened. I'd never felt anybody do something like that before. Sean Gannon, another guy with an absolutely enormous head. And I remember we were rolling. So this was when I was
he's got the head. He's got the head. We got to get him in there.
In the lighter head, dude. Gabriel Gonzaga has an enormous head. Sean Gannon had an enormous head, like a pit bull head. And we were rolling, and he just swept me and threw me. And he was like, "Oh, sorry, let's start again. I think that one was cheap." And I was like, "Oh, that wasn't cheap. It's just going to suck." And then he did the exact same fucking thing again. And I was like, "Oh God, it's crazy." Like doing any grappling, striking, anything with a person who is skilled in a heavyweight. Because I remember down at CGR, I sparred with some.
Well, if
less
some random dude, it
heavyweights.
wouldn't matter what they weighed, right? If some random dude walked in off the street and tried to fight you, like there's no weight that's going to affect your levels of training, right? Like there's no equalizer in weight, right?
Yeah. And I was just
it wouldn't be
quicker
fair because you're not in my
guys.
weight class.
I remember when the night that Ben taught that lesson to a friend of ours who fancied himself a very skilled street fighter. He probably was 275 at that point, and Ben ankle picked him, and it was a really short fight.
Who?
A friend of ours. We don't need to put his name on here. Blood bonfires.
You in the fucking mafia?
Got it.
House arrest.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Yeah. I do remember you ankle picking him. That was funny. He's a good fighter too, but training. Yeah, training's a thing. Virna Jandiroba is a very scary looking lady.
Yeah, she's scary, huh?
She's got scary zombie face, and I don't like it. I think for that reason you should bet on her. I'm not sure how good she is, but she looks like a scary monster.
She looks scary.
Yeah, she's got she's got dead shark eyes, first of all, which I always was taught growing up. That if you see somebody in a bar that wants to fight you and they have those dead shark eyes, you got to get yourself out of there because they might bottle you. She's got that. She's Brazilian. She's good. She's only lost 3 fights, but Marina Rodriguez, who she's fighting, has only lost 2. It reminds me of the Prince Goro analogy that we use all the time on this show. I just think it's like you can't fight a supernatural being. That's just I don't go with my word on this. I'm doing absolutely no technical research on the idea of this fight. I just think one looks scarier than the other. Matt, what do you think?
I'm going to go with, so I'm kind of embarrassed because I really don't remember watching either of these two girls fight.
I've definitely seen this scary looking lady before. I've
Have
definitely
you?
seen it. She kind of looks like the female version of that kid Kira we went to high school with, but with deader eyes. With deader eyes.
When you started saying all this, I had to look her up, and I was like, that girl looks like Kira.
I don't know if that means like she looks like him or he just looked, I don't know. I mean, he wasn't a good looking guy, but I think, she does a little.
So I was going to say, I'm going to bet on the pretty one, but then I clicked on the other picture and that's not much better. So I'm going to roll with you. I'm going with Frankenstein.
Oh my God. Yeah. Let's just skip this one before we get this whole fucking thing canceled. Yeah. And let's say the scary one's going to win.
Yeah.
By the way, Virna, would.
Listen, you don't know. I mean, if you're lost at sea for a long time, not everybody gets trapped on a fucking.
No. I'm talking primetime Friday night wood.
There we go, buddy. There we go.
Oh my god. Okay, Callan Williams is fighting Rolando Bedoya. Bedoya, I can't bet on a guy with a name like that. And also, he's a plus 250 favorite, underdog. Chaos Williams, as he's known. Anybody with a nickname that becomes synonymous with their first name, and it's Chaos. He's an agent of it, spells it with a K. I'm not going to have any bones to pick with him about that. I think he's a good fighter. He's 4-2 in the promotion. He's been impressive. He's knocked out Alex Morono, who's a good fighter. He knocked out Al Hassan, who's a good fighter. He knocked out Bieza, who's a good fighter. He has lost a couple tough decisions, which I don't think you can really hold against a guy. Split decisions are like, we're not going to call a fucking draw, right? Like, I mean, it's you can go on a bad run of luck with that. I mean, judges in this sport are fucking terrible, but I do think this does apply to this guy. Tell me, is there any route to Bedoya winning this fight? There's no value in this underdog bet.
Oh, no, Chaos is going to kill this kid. First of all, I don't know if you remember this, but at the time we really thought he beat Randy Brown in his last fight.
Yes. Yeah.
I really think he's going to tee off on this kid. I don't see there's no value in it. I'm not going to bet it. Might put it as part of a parlay. But
yeah, it could be a good parlay anchor. Yeah, it could. He's a good striker. He strikes a lot, and he's got great takedown defense. You don't need to learn how to be good on the ground if nobody can get you there. 75% takedown defense, very good for the amount of fights he's had. Another meta question for you, Ben. If you were a great striker, right? Like you wanted to operate on the feet for the most part, especially
I wasn't at first,
right? But like the thing that you practiced the most was striking, and the thing you ended up doing was Thai boxing, right? And
naturally, he was amazing at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He didn't want to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He wanted to strike, so he worked hard at it.
Yeah, and I think that's true in life. I think that I've seen this example. I've seen examples of this all through my life. If you're naturally good at something, you feel like you don't need to work at it. It's just human nature. If you're not good at something and you want to be, you got to work really fucking hard to get it. So I think your ceiling might be a little bit higher. But my question is, if you are uncomfortable on the ground, and I know you were never truly uncomfortable on the ground, but if you are uncomfortable on the ground, and you have yourself two options, you can spend your time learning how to not get put down there, or you can spend your time learning how to defend yourself once you are or get back up, right? Am I correct when I say that, or is there more nuance to it?
No, I think you're right there. I think you learn how to stall for the most part, and to stall any movement forward from your opponent, and look how to game the cage that you're in. So you're in a cage, you learn how to wall walk, you learn how to defend specifically for the cage, which would be different for how you defend when you're fighting in a ring, how you're fighting in a street, so on and so forth. Where you put your hips, the direction you turn your feet in, you figure out all that stuff and move towards the anti-wrestling aspect of grappling, which is how do you break grips and how do you create space?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, do you shut up? Matt, are you afraid to bet on guys that don't want to go on the ground though?
No, I'm not.
I mean, it's because it's like if you come up against a really elite grappler, it seems those guys really always have the other guy's number, right? They can always seem to swallow guys up when they get to when they finally fight the guy that's elite. That's really that like elite wrestling. You're eventually going to lose that bet, right? Because fights fall. I mean, gravity's on your side. Every fucking school fight you ever saw ended up on the ground because it just happens. Like you lose your balance. There's an advantage to it. They do start standing. But you got to get a lot done before somebody tries to take you down. Do you get scared betting on guys like that? What do you think?
So I think when that is the case, it's somebody that's, going to be the elite wrestler going through. The UFC markets them more heavily because Dana White has, over the past 30 years, made it very clear to fighters that are hungry. Throw your punches, throw the hands, let's see the blood. So even when fighters are wrestling oriented, the UFC rewards them more for standing on their feet. And that's what you see with a lot of no-name fighters, that they want to stand and bang and show that they're multifaceted.
Unless they can just get guys out of there right away with their grab.
Like the Kamzat,
or the Bo Nickel.
Right. Exactly.
If they're at that level, yeah.
So this kid, I expect him to try and stand and bang until he gets hurt. Then he's going to shoot. And what happens then once he's hurt, we'll see what happens.
I would say, just as one thing, Bedoya's only ever lost one fight. So there is a blind confidence factor in here. So bet at your own peril. as far as like anchoring any sort of parlay. I do think Chaos Williams has this though, and I think we're all on the same page there. Nchukwu versus Clarke. I'm leaning towards the Clarke, to be honest with you, because he gives me a lot of confidence with his name. No, I actually don't think so. I think Nchukwu is going to win this. I think it's 4 out of the last 6 opponents he's knocked out. This guy puts guys away. He's got knockout power. It's very uncomfortable betting against knockout power because you're just even if your guy is more skilled, he might just get Prince Gorod, and I just think it's just scary. I don't like to be in that situation. It's like betting the fight will go the distance. It's like I don't get finished. I don't get finished. And it's just, it's not a pleasant place to be. And I do let that kind of guide my bets sometimes because I'm trying to have fun. But this is actually a pretty even fight. I think that there's things to be said about both guys here. Clarke's not very consistent. He has lost 3 of his last 5. He got TKO'd recently. That's going to fuck your confidence up. Ben, I do like to mention on every show that you never got knocked out, which is a good feather in your cap, a good arrow in your quiver. But
still waiting.
Sorry?
Still waiting.
Still waiting. Do I got one coming for you? But here's the thing. You can't speak to this from experience, but I'm sure you've dealt with your friends and your sparring partners and stuff. How much does a knockout, even a TKO, change these fighters when it happens to them for the first time?
It's
like, I don't know, bro. It's never fucking happened to me. Move on.
No, I mean, I've trained with some guys who were absolute killers, who would go into fights kind of expecting to walk through people. Everybody expected them to walk through them. And for example, Marquise, who I used to train with in Worcester, he was an animal. He was so strong for his weight, had natural knockout power, despite really never having to box or do anything like that. It just came naturally to him. But he never put in enough time with his grappling defense. And we fought together, what was this, 2009, 2010. And he had walked through his first couple opponents and he started fighting this guy who was able to just weather the early storm, which is something, that as you get more experience, that's what you do. You weather the early storm on a guy like Marquise. And he started beating the guy up, picked him up, like whisked through the girlfriend legs through, hand through their legs thing, and dumped him on his head. And
we keep it technical here on Check My Oil.
I can't remember what the opponent's name was, but he just stayed calm. He turtled, he advanced position, turned around, and then passed guard on Marquise and knocked him out from that. And Marquise never came back.
Oh,
that's a sad story. Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate, but a knockout to the point that we are making here changes you.
Yeah.
It is such an uncomfortable thing. And once you realize, because even with submissions, you're still in control of it. You can say, I'm done, or you can say, fuck it, do it.
Yeah.
And I know what's going to happen. But with a knockout, it's entirely, it's out of your control. And once you realize that your body isn't in your control like that, and you're going into a situation where somebody has the opportunity to do that to you again, I think that makes or breaks a lot of people.
Yeah. I think, when even in the real world, growing up, the first time you take a beating, man, it is something to process, even if you're in a situation where it wasn't fair or, you got fucking surprised or whatever it is, like it is something that you have to process because the human brain is built to keep you safe and keep you alive. And when something like that happens, your brain is screaming at you not to put yourself in that situation again. Like there's deep DNA and years and years of human evolution telling you not to do that. And it's probably right. Matt, as far as Nchukwu and Clarke go, I think the reason this fight is more even is because they both kind of suck. They're a little inconsistent, but Clarke's been knocked out 6 fucking times. And Nchukwu knocks guys out, right? Like we don't need to overthink this, right?
No, you don't need to I wouldn't be like,
would you bet the knockout?
Clarke wins. I wouldn't bet the knockout. If I'm betting this,
method of fucking victory fucks me, dude. I can't.
You always go bet the victory.
I don't know. I get greedy.
You say you're not going to do it, and then the whole time you're like, "Oh, I lost that one because I bet." So
I know.
What are you doing?
I know.
I would not be shocked if Clarke won this fight, but I'd bet Njoku.
Okay. I think Drew Dober is a douche, and I
love him.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I love him.
The crimson chin. Look at that guy.
Chin? Is that what they call him? I never heard that.
No, I don't know.
He's a good-looking cat. And I need someone to tell him about that haircut that hasn't been cool in a good 4.5 years. He looks like a fucking SS guard. I feel like we just brought him up on trial at Nuremberg, and he's just telling us that he was just following orders. I can't with this fucking dude. All right, he looks like one of Hans Gruber's men, and it drives me fucking bananas every time he walks into the octagon. Listen, he's attractive. Okay, maybe I have some latent homosexual feelings towards him. I don't know. But I know that I don't like when he opens his fucking mouth, and I don't like when he talks, and I know he's gonna win this fight. So I'm a little annoyed.
Definitely gonna win this fight.
Speak to it.
He's definitely going to win this fight. That kid, and it's funny, he has a hell of a chin, both in the real world and in the fight world. He's
great dick too. Well, what? Who said that?
Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. These
they
two
made
guys,
it in.
If you're a casual MMA fan, you should really tune in for this fight, because these two dudes are going to stand in the pocket and bang it out, and it's going to be awesome. And Drew Dober he's just got a strong chin. I think he's going to knock him out flat.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Ben, is there an advantage to standing in the pocket if you're the tougher guy, the better puncher, or is that just always a stupid thing to do?
No, I mean, that pressure is inevitably what makes everybody uncomfortable. One of the biggest humps in a game is getting used to dealing with pressure and somebody trying to put you on the back foot.
Sure.
If you can fight well off the back foot, great. Even better if you can avoid that and learn how to pivot, how to angle, how to not get put moving backwards and deal with pressure. But man, if you're a tough grinder, ugly dude, get in there and throw some bombs and stay in the pocket, and you're able to push guys back, and everybody you fight can't deal with that. That's what you should do, man. You play to your strength. And I think Drew, also being such a veteran of the sport, the guy's had a ton of fights.
His resume is impressive at this point. Yeah,
he's been around. Go for it, man. Keep pushing it. I mean, Father Time, again, I know I keep saying this, but Father Time catches up with everybody, and there will be a point in this guy's career when he can't do that anymore. And when that happens, it's going to be his downfall. It's going to get knocked out. That's how this happens.
Yeah. But not today. Not this Saturday.
Well, we don't know.
Well, we'll see. I know you're not supposed to do MMA math, but two of the guys that Frivolas lost to, Drew Dober is beaten. So it's one of those things where it's like you're kind of fighting because you're running out of a stable, and guys there has to be some matchmaking, sacrifices made. I think this is the best parlay anchor of the entire card. I think that if I'm really sure about anything, I'm not sure about anything, but if the thing I'm the most comfortable betting on this entire card is Drew Dober. So if you're going to put one or two risky parlay bets on something, I would use Drew as the anchor there. Kron Gracie, veterans of the mixed martial arts game. People have been watching this sport a long time. Anyone who's seen Red Belt, one of my favorite movies. The Gracies, they're the fathers of mixed martial arts because they made everybody their children when they first introduced jiu-jitsu into competition way back in the day. There's a great documentary about, I think it's Royce Gracie, doing one of those Grand Prix style, tournaments where they, you fight a bunch of times in a night, which is fucking insane to me. It's called Choke. You can watch it on YouTube if you guys are interested, or if any of the listeners are interested. And it's a really intimate portrait of every time he goes and fights, nobody knows about jiu-jitsu. Nobody knows about it. So he goes and just jiu-jitsus everybody, but he gets a little beat up along the way, and he's dealing with injuries as he goes. And he, the only reason he's able to do this is because he's basically adapted jiu-jitsu into this Brazilian style that's incredibly elite for finishing competitive fights in the mixed martial arts arena. And the Gracies, they're one of the first people you ever told me about, Ben. You told me a story about one of them getting their arm broken and finishing a fight when we were at IHOP in 2005. I remember this very clearly because I have a fucking great memory. I'm like an elephant. But
Oh boy,
Ben, I don't mean to hurt your feelings about that. I know your memory's not great, but it's okay. The fact of the matter is, and the thing I'm getting at is, this name is synonymous with mixed martial arts. If there's any name that's royalty in this game, it's Gracie. This guy did get finished in his last fight. He took a long time off. I don't know if just having the name is anything, but there's no way his jiu-jitsu is not elite. There's no way he was not raised in an environment that is crazy fucking high stakes for making a name for yourself in combat sports. But Ben, to your point before we started recording, and I'll start with you on this, he's a rich kid. You know, he grew up in royalty. He's still royalty, and royalty, that's soft like baby poop. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. And I'm gonna go off on the Gracies a little bit here.
Oh no, I thought you liked them.
Well, so synonymous with the development of the UFC and mixed martial arts where it is today. Obviously, there was like the UFC getting bought, Dana White being involved, all this. But the Gracies were bullies. And
you would be too, though, right?
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. All the Gracies were raised incredibly wealthy. Kron's father, Rickson, is probably one of the, I don't know if notorious is the word, probably one of the most notorious Gracies because of his record. So this was back in the day of the no holds barred Brazilian fight, 250 and up.
What?
It is Rickson Gracie.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, no, never lost a fight. That's probably bullshit. Or at least the numbers have been.
Or like who was it that he fought to? Right?
Yeah. Rickson was incredibly famous
for his shows.
For his fight, on the beach with the famous Luta Libre family. The Gracie family and the Luta Libre family fought each other on the beach, and Rickson and I can't remember what the other guy's name was, so it goes to show, the winner writes history. But they had a famous fight on the beach. Yeah, no good. And it's recorded. You can go look this up online, and that was one of the most that was a huge thing at the time. Lucha Libre was wrestling. The Gracies were Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Rickson put it on this guy, and he was always like that. That was just the kind of guy he was. Same thing with Royce, with Renzo. Renzo is a literal Nazi, though, and
oh really?
Yeah. And Renzo
like
in New
a
York
National
City.
Socialist Party, like a Hitler,
like quoting Hitler on Twitter and all this stuff during. That being so,
the fucking underbelly of the Gracie family we're learning about today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tons of people left his academy, and he does have credit where credit's due. I don't know how you give credit to a Nazi, but he does, he has produced some of the best grapplers in the world. John Danaher, and the Danaher Death Squad came out of Renzo Gracie's gym, and now you see guys like Gordon Ryan, who was a product of Renzo Gracie. I was part of that Renzo Gracie lineage at one point before I switched out, and it's just kind of they're all kind of scumbags. Is the point that you get?
At least Matt Serra's a fun scumbag.
Yeah. He does. He seems like an asshole. But
didn't he get hit by a train?
He's the craziest person I've ever heard speak.
That's Matt Hughes.
Oh, Matt Hughes.
Matt Hughes got hit by a train.
Yeah. So circling back, because I kind of had to get all that out there.
Yeah, it seems like it was in there.
Yeah, I was waiting for my chance. Kron Gracie. I think it's interesting because he got finished and he had to take time off. He obviously has that opportunity, being a rich kid and having the background that he does. One of the most accomplished pure jiu-jitsu artists in the world today. Incredibly talented, fantastic. Competed in Mondias, won the ADC, CC. So good at grappling. But you see time and time again, people this is interesting because I think it has to do with the culture of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and what that sort of style is like. You see so many guys like Kron come in Who's the guy who? So Kron trains with the Diaz brothers. Who is the other guy who was training with the Diaz brothers? The blonde kid.
Jake Shields.
No, not Jake Shields.
Oliveira.
Yeah, he's American. God, I won't be able to remember his name, but he was a fantastic grappler. Went into MMA, got knocked out. It's a different game because in jiu-jitsu, there are so many opportunities during the match for you to hold and rest. And then you're able to they say it's a fast-paced chess match, but you have all these opportunities to slow things down.
Especially in the gi, right? If you have the gi.
Yeah, you can just grab onto people and hold on. And Kron Gracie is one of the best gi competitors in the world. That being said, I have a hard time betting against, I'm not a betting man, but betting against somebody who has a skill set like Kron Gracie. When you think about guys like,
I was literally going to say, all that being said, he's going to drag Jourdain down to the fucking ground and submit him, right? Like that is what's going to happen in this fight. He's the underdog too. There's value here.
Yeah, no, I don't see any way around it. I think if in the first round of the fight, if he is unable to get Jourdain down to the ground, I think that will tell the tale of the fight because I think Kron has a tendency to break. Like I think a lot of the Gracies and a lot of top tier jiu-jitsu guys do in mixed martial arts once they realize this is no longer their world. And they can't bring them down to the mats where they have the upper hand. If Kron is able to do that and he's able to catch an ankle to take him down, however it happens, then you have no question how this fight's going to go. Nobody beats this guy on the.
Matt, like last fight, the reason he lost was because he sort of abandoned jiu-jitsu and tried to strike, right? He's not going to make that same mistake again. His dad probably fucking yelled at him or his uncle or something. As much as Jourdain is back against the wall, he really needs this win. Canadian striking versus legacy jiu-jitsu, like Ben was just talking about, as much as these guys are apparently a pack of fucking scumbags, he's going to get the win via submission. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree, but I mean, the line scares me here. This is one of those Vegas. All we've seen from Kron Gracie this week is he got mad that Henry Cejudo had autograph rights in front of him as far as timing goes. He wouldn't answer questions at the media day. This kid's got, he's a nut job. You know what I mean? So who knows what he's going to do? If he takes somebody to the ground, it's over. If he doesn't, who knows what's going to happen?
He's unpredictable, and you don't want to put.
He's unpredictable.
Yeah, I mean, fair. I'll be betting the win by submission. I'm just kidding. You're right. He is fucking unpredictable. I don't like it either. And honestly, based on just the moral implications of his entire family bloodline, that I just learned about, really, I don't think that I will be putting any money on him. Really quick, because I let the time get away from us. We're gonna have to rush through Jessica Andrade and Jan. Jessica Andrade, as much as she's coming off a loss, she's super fucking dangerous. I think she's winning this fight. She fucking dumped Rose Namajunas on her fucking head in a really, really scary way. She's a good fighter. She's a scary lady. She's serious business. I think that the line's crazy here. I would think that Andrade at the time of recording is minus 195. I would think minus 250. So there is some value in the favorite bet maybe here. Matt, would talk to me.
It's really simple. Chinese fighters are scary, man. They're just capable of.
They're
so well disciplined. They're so well disciplined in all aspects that I think this girl goes to the same school as Weili Zhang, or that's where she started. So I think that's probably why the line is so close. But I'm with you. Andrade is just so strong. So I mean, she's 24-10. Like, she's got more experience. She's just ready for this.
She looks scary.
She's scary.
She's got a scary looking face. Again,
would.
I think you should have her fight the other scary looking face Brazilian lady and see how that goes.
Ooh.
I want to carve out some time for the co-main and the main, so we're just going to move on. The Belal Muhammad Gilbert Burns fight. So we were all vocally disappointed with Gilbert Burns' performance against Jorge Masvidal, but it was very recently. So credit to him for getting back in so quickly.
1 month.
He took absolutely no fucking damage though. So. But, I mean, you are on a schedule, a training schedule, a weight cutting schedule, so it's not easy to do what he's doing. That being said, this fight has all the fucking hallmarks of cancel out culture. Like, These guys might circle each other for 3 rounds and not do anything and really cancel each other out. I find Belal Muhammad obnoxious. I find his fighting style very, very safe.
Remember the name.
Yeah, remember the name of the most common name on the planet. The literally most common name on the planet is Muhammad. Remember the name. It's really difficult. Give me a fucking break, dude. When he's on as a commentator, the UFC does this funny thing where they're like, okay, so we got Daniel Cormier, who was kind of a larger than life character, and he's like kind of gregarious and funny, and we'll make him a play-by-play guy. We got Michael Bisping, who like obviously he's his own biggest fan, and he speaks like someone who suffered a lot of head trauma, but sometimes he can be somewhat funny, and he's a decent commentator. Paul Felder, very professional, very cut. He does the work. Then they have this fun thing where they have like the UFC after show, where it's like the people under the stairs. It's like, let's have Anthony Lionheart Smith say some stuff when we know everyone's tuning over the channel. Let's let Belal Muhammad say some shit when we know everybody's turning over the channel. Like, we're not letting him on the fucking main broadcast, but I guess he can say some shit afterwards. Let's let Dustin Poirier in there where, he can say whatever he wants. If he talks about going down the hall to fuck his sister, nobody's going to really hear about it because it's on the show nobody watches. Belal Muhammad is one of those people. I mean, I'm sure he's setting himself up for a career after the UFC, and I have to respect anybody that gets their bag, but goddamn, does that guy rub me the wrong way. He's got a weird face. It's getting weirder. I don't like him. I don't like his fighting style. I find him incredibly safe. He's a point fighter. And both of these guys, I was advocating, Ben, as you know, for Gilbert Burns to get a shot at the title if he put it on Masvidal. We were all disappointed with the performance he put in. That you can go back and look and listen to the show where we talked about that. But fucking Belal Muhammad, like, I never really thought he deserved any sort of a crack at the welterweight belt for basically just for performance. Like, he wins, I get it, but it's like, there's an entertainment factor here. You got to go do it, especially when guys at the top are Leon Edwards head kicking fucking Kamaru Usman into oblivion. Like, you got to show me something. Is that unfair? I mean, he's a good fighter. He wins his fights.
No, this is a spectator sport, man, and and at the end of the day, this is a business. And the UFC isn't in the business of losing money and putting together these promotions to put on someone like Belal Muhammad in a main event. I mean, you're just not going to get the return there. Like you turn him to tune in to hopefully see the guy that beats him, and then the division's exciting again.
Is that going to be Gilbert Burns?
I'm never going to bet against Gilbert Burns just because I like him. I think he's exciting. I know we were disappointed with his performance against Jorge Masvidal, who looked massive against Gilbert Burns. I think Gilbert Burns is a fairly undersized guy for this weight class. Yeah. But he
fights his size though, right? Like, I feel like he controls his range really well. I feel like he can go anywhere, the fight takes you. That being said, like, he should have just dragged Jorge down and fucking submitted him. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, he's got moisturizer on.
Yeah, Jorge's TDD, his takedown defense for the casuals, is what it was always one of the best in the sport.
That's true.
His grip fighting, his anti-wrestling was fantastic, and Gilbert Burns is an amazing jiu-jitsu practitioner. But you have to get there. So this will be interesting. I hope they're canceled out because I think Gilbert Burns will have a slight advantage on the feet here against Belal.
Matt, what does this fight look like? How does it play out? Because I can't really put my finger on what it's actually going to look like. And I hope it's not the worst case scenario, which we all know.
So I'm going to do something that I have yet to do in my life, and I'm going to bet on Belal Muhammad because I thought Thompson was going to put him away. I thought Vincenzo Luque was going to put him away. And I thought he was going to lose to Brady as well. So I'm going to bet on Muhammad. He's pissed, man. He's super pissed. He got passed over for what was a clear shot at the belt. It should have been him and Leon for a rematch.
Instead of Kobe, I'll give you that. But Kobe, again, he puts asses in seats, man.
I agree. Listen, it's just Kobe doesn't deserve the shot.
It's a business decision. I mean, it's a fucking business decision. This is America.
Yeah, maybe you're right, but it doesn't change the fact that Belal is pissed. And I think he's going to come out here, and after watching Gilbert, he lost to Hamza, which I thought he won, and then really, really shitty performance against an easy target
like
that didn't put up in defense.
To Ben's point, though, I mean, styles make fights, blah, blah, blah. It's the old cliche. He might have just been the worst guy to give to Gilbert Burns to go put away. You know
why I think Belal's got a real shot here? It's a 5-round fight, and I think that favors Belal big time. Is it? Yep.
Interesting.
I know.
Interesting.
That really favors Belal.
That's fair. That's a good point. I still think Gilbert Burns. I have a hard time betting against him, like Ben said. But anyway, that's going to be an interesting co-main. I like at least one of the guys. I like at least one of the guys in the co-main. I like Gilbert Burns. I don't so much like the other guy. I can't remember his name. So did you see what I did there? Aljamain Sterling and Henry Cejudo are fighting. I fucking don't like either of these guys. I think Aljamain Sterling's really talented. I really like how unique his wrestling style is. Like, say what you will about like how he presents himself. I do think he's a very singular fighter and difficult to predict how his fights are going to go. It's always left a bad taste in my mouth how the Petr Yan Aljamain Sterling title fight went, because he was getting fucking breaks beaten off him, and he 1000% faked an injury because he knew the results.
1000%.
It was a bad performance, and I mean that in an acting sense. And yeah, he went and beat the shit out of Petr Yan after that, but like it's still, it wasn't fair. I didn't like it. I didn't like how it went down. It was a waste of everybody's time, and it wasn't what the fighting man's supposed to do. You gotta get back up and continue the fight, regardless of the fact that you're getting your ass whooped. I don't necessarily blame him in that regard. I think the rules need to get addressed there, because why would you continue to fight when you can win a no contest in that situation? Don't put it on the fighter to make that decision. You know, like you gotta have the rules set to make these decisions. But it's hard to get that taste out of my mouth. That being said, I really fucking hope he beats Henry Cejudo. That guy's like, I know it's a character, but it's fucking annoying. It's not
so
funny.
Annoying.
I think he's super talented, Henry Cejudo, but I really think he's been eating fucking pies and cheeseburgers for the last few years. And I think that as much as he's a great game planner, and I think he's one of the best tape guys, other than maybe John Jones, in the sport. I think he's overconfident here. I really think he thinks he's gonna be able to do to Aljamain Sterling what he was able to do to like TJ Dillashaw. I just don't think that's the case. Ben, am I crazy? I mean, you're as a professional yourself. I'm sure you have respect for what Henry Cejudo's done. His accomplishments, his Olympic accomplishments. But I mean, this character, it's just so tiresome.
I mean, you got to have respect for both these guys. They both have, Aljamain, to your point about Petr Yan, he really played the fucking bitch role that fight, but then he came back and he did it. And he fought the same guy and he beat him. And I think he's very talented. He trained out of with Matt Serra, great grappler, incredibly athletic guy. I think his level of activity is going to be what kind of gives him the edge here against the guy who's coming back. To your point, probably hasn't been training super hard, hasn't been on the hard diet. Henry obviously has some fantastic accomplishments. Nobody gives a shit about what you did 10 years ago, however long it's today. Like, let's see how you perform. And man, I just want somebody to shut this dude up. I can't, like, I know it's a character. I know that we all say that. Like, the same thing with what's his name? Who's the other kid that we were just talking about? Who Marty Fake Newsman? Yeah, Marty Fake Newsman beat the shit out of
Colby Covington. Yeah.
Like, I know it's supposed to be a character. I mean, I'm hoping Colby Covington.
Yeah, dear God, nobody could really be shit out, right?
But like, I mean, nobody else is in on the joke with you, bud. Like, we get it that it's a character. We know that we know it's a character, but we're not like, oh, he's doing his thing, man. He's just doing his thing. Like, dude, shut up and just be quiet. Go in there and perform.
There's a guy on TikTok that does like when the fringe friend shows up, and like is the theme of like the character, and he's like, huh, saw you last night. You were blocked out. And it's like, dude, nobody really thinks you're cool or wants you here, but we're not. We're too nice to not say it. So I guess you can come to the bar. I agree. I agree. I just think Henry, nobody's in on the joke with you, pal, is a perfect way to put it. Still, it's been a while, but I've learned my lesson betting against him. Like, he put away everybody I thought was going to beat him, including TJ. So Matt, where's your money landed?
I've got a horrible gambler stat that I heard today. I literally heard it today. In this weight class, people over the age of 35 fighting for a belt are 2-28.
Ooh.
Give me Aljo all day.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting.
When you think about it, it makes sense because we were talking about how heavyweights are dangerous no matter who they are because they're so heavy and they throw those punches. These guys are so light and so athletic that the older you get, the worse you are in that division.
Up more in your fast.
That's why they move up in weight.
Yeah. Oh, it's a decent point. Okay, well, we're out of time. I'm going to leave it there. All very good points. Really appreciate you, gents. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Check My Oil, brought to you by Missing the Point. Tune in on Saturday at the regular time. Main card starts at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific. And in the main event, we will find out once and for all who is the king of Munchkinland. Who is the 135-pound champion. So, for myself, Matt Wilcox, Ben Peake, thank you so much for checking our oil. Bye-bye.
Hey there, fabulous souls. I'm Stephanie Baklaan.
And I'm Eden Alpert.
And we're the hosts of the brand new podcast, Unapologetically Fab.
Get ready to join us on an amazing and real journey as we dive into life after 40 and own it.
We're all about changing the narrative, leaning into who you are, and living a life by your own design.
Join us as we embrace life unapologetically and redefine success.
This is Unapologetically Fab,
an Electric Cat production.
See you there.
Electricast.
Miles, are you ready to record our promo for Season 2 of the Wanna Bet podcast?
David, have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Miles, we're not here to quote lines from Airplane. We're here to tell people that Season 2 starts August 18th.
But I like Airplane.
I know you do, but Wanna Bet is a sports betting podcast. Each week we bet $1,000 on the NFL teams and games that we love.
Well, that sounds like fun.
It is fun. And last year you picked over 60% of your games correctly.
How'd you do?
We're not talking about that. We are telling people that they can find us every Friday. So no more movie quotes.
Roger.
Electricast. Electricast.